I think we're live. I think we're live. All right. Hi, everyone. Lori Swanson here, CEO of Inspire Tech, founder of Career Alchemy Academy. I'm using a different background today. I thought it went better with my shirt. That's how I pick my backgrounds. What's going good with my clothes, right? Um, but first and foremost, if you're watching this on Monday or Tuesday or even Wednesday, July 1st, 2nd, 3rd, um, uh, next week, next Wednesday, Inspire Tech, my company, is sponsoring an event called Technology with Purpose. It's a free event. It's downtown Chicago at the Discovery Room, which is 200 South Wacker. And it's from 5:30 to 8 p.m. And there's a panel discussion about with top technology leaders as well as academic leaders on the conversation of ethical AI, innovation, and leadership. And so it is a free event. And so I wanted to recommend that you go to Eventbrite, look up Technology with Purpose and the July 7th date, and you'll find the registration link there. Or you can go and sign up for my blog on my website. And they next Monday's blog that will come out, if you sign up before next Monday, you'll get the link that looks something like this. Register here in the blog, in the newsletter. So wanted to make sure I mentioned this cool event. I will be there and passing out my delicious pink pens. So love to see you join me and these four amazing women on this, ongoing conversation about, uh, you know, where do we land with AI? And I think it's really important. And this is even directly related to the topic that I want to talk about today, which is called What is Your Leadership Philosophy? And I think that this conversation about AI and ethics um, is can be very individual. You can have a real strong individual impact when you're clear about your leadership philosophy and then where AI and the ethics of AI and how strategically you might be influencing the use of AI in your organization. I think leadership philosophy, which I'm going to talk about, is very important thing to consider. So let me just get started. Um, Per usual, everything starts with a conversation with a coaching client, almost always, or some concert I went to, or some book I'm reading, or some event I attended. But in this case, it was a conversation with a coaching client who I'm working with. She's a product design leader, and we were usually people come to me, they're at this career crossroads, and we talk about working with your career assets in the very beginning. And that's, your LinkedIn profile and your resume, right? And so, and that's often where we start, even if it's not, I'm not what I would call a resume writer. That's not what I do for my work, but I've seen enough resumes that I can review them, and same with LinkedIn profiles, and sort of point out gaps and look at ways we can make them stronger and make sure that they're getting that very high ATS score, as well as, that they're doing their jobs. You're getting the interviews, you're getting found on LinkedIn, that sort of thing. So often that's where we start. And it's true in this case. And she brought a very strong resume to the party. She already had that kind of done, and she said, I've done my resume, I've done my LinkedIn profile, so now I want to talk about the vision of where I'm going. And I said, well, let's just look at them really quick, right? So the resume I thought looked really good. The LinkedIn profile, on the other hand, was basically cut and paste of the resume over to LinkedIn, which is not um, a the best use of LinkedIn, and how you can, a resume is very much about details, where LinkedIn is an opportunity that she was missing, an opportunity to tell a story, your story, in a way that piques curiosity, but also makes you memorable, right? And so one of the things I suggested that I felt really can do both of those things, pique curiosity and make you memorable, is in the About section in LinkedIn to put a short paragraph on your leadership philosophy. And so um, the leadership philosophy immediately will tell you, like, sort of differentiates you, because it shifts the conversation from your accomplishments, which are really important, and your resume will give that detail, and the experience section within LinkedIn will give that detail, and your headline might give a little bit of, you know, and even part of your about section may have talked about, some of the details of your accomplishments. But this section, the leadership philosophy section, moves you from your accomplishments to a glimpse of how you will lead, what they can expect, be it the hiring manager or the team that might be reviewing your LinkedIn profile, or even board and executive teams that are considering you for a board seat. It could even be for speaking opportunities. Like, how does this person think? What is her philosophy? And so your leadership philosophy, once you've kind of figured out what it is, it becomes an anchor. And so, for example, it helps you make, you can go back to your leadership philosophy when you're at a point where you're trying to make a decision. So it can help not only help you make decisions, but make consistent decisions. And when we're a leader that we know kind of consistently how they're going to respond to things, that builds trust in the team. And that's another anchor of a leadership philosophy, is it builds that trust, right? It will also, communicate what people can expect from you. It can help you stand out in interviews or presentations or at meetings or conferences. It can help you stay grounded, especially when the waters get rough. If you are firmly planted in your philosophy, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, like how to find your philosophy. But once you're clear about that, can help you stay grounded when circumstances change. It can help you stay grounded in a job search, in any sort of organizational change. This is that anchor again. And then I think one of the biggest ones for me personally, and I think, again, AI is changing a lot of things. There is a lot of tumult in the world, lots of unstable ground. And I think that this instability is actually an opportunity to rebuild differently, rebuild corporations differently, and having a leadership philosophy, like a very strong understanding of your leadership philosophy, helps to combat these older, worn out leadership philosophies that are, they're just outdated, and they just do not serve equitably. They just don't serve equitably. And so when you have a solid leadership philosophy that you can go back to, one of the things that you can build that foundation on, anchor yourself in, is creating a new way to lead through how you're, built on what you believe in and your values, because that's what a philosophy is, right? It's what you believe in. It's things you value. And a clear leadership philosophy also brings calm before a storm, in a storm, and after a storm. And I just think that's so magical to think about that's when you have that anchor, when you have that foundation of who you are, what you believe in, and how you lead, that the waters can be calm, they can be rough, they can be, tidal, and you stand firm. And so, and when people around you understand that, and how how this philosophy is guiding your decisions, how you react in different types of situations, if they they understand all of that, then they feel more certain and grounded themselves in uncertainty, right? So that's, I'm just thinking about why it's so valuable to be clear about your leadership philosophy. And if you've never articulated your leadership philosophy before, and it's not in your LinkedIn profile yet, then let me give you some questions you can use to help kind of get those juices flowing. And then you take all of those things and you can look for themes. You can use AI to help you out on this, but and eventually put it into your LinkedIn profile. But again, you can put it on like keywords up on on in your office, so people see Lori's leadership philosophy, boom, 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 and again, the curiosity gets piqued. They might ask you where that came from, what that means. And in response to these questions I'm going to give you right now, you'll have some great answers for them. So the first one that is always going to lead to a great story is, what leaders have you admired most and why? That helps to define your philosophy. That you admire that in other people, take it on, make it your own. They don't hold the market on some sort of particular way of leading. You can you can also embody that. Another one is just simply, what values do you refuse to compromise? So if you were under pressure, we can all talk about values, super important, and I think we know our values. And there's some Susie Welch. She's a professor in New York. She has if you ever go out to her website, she has a little values survey you can take that will give you your top values, and they're just fun to do. But I can tell you that, like most of these personality type things, and hers is absolutely deeply embedded in research and all of that. So I'm not trying to minimize that, but I do think we know. I really do think we know. We might not articulate it very well, but if you take this values exercise, I don't think you're going to be surprised at the values that rise to the top. But now we can build a philosophy out of those, right? And then we can start to communicate that in our messaging and in how we lead, which is the whole point. And so the second question was, what values do you refuse to compromise? And I especially want you to think about, if you think backwards in time, when you were under pressure, what were some things that you refused to compromise? Like, if you believe, you're not going to lie, cheat, and steal, I hope, that's a value. I don't lie, I don't cheat, I don't steal. But perhaps, like, you value patience, and so under pressure, you don't rush to decisions. That's how leadership quality, that's part of your philosophy, right? So under pressure, you are patient. Under pressure, you don't throw someone else under the bus, right? So you start to see part of your philosophy, part of your values coming through. You also might ask yourself, when have you been at your best as a leader? Like, what was happening? Why did you feel so empowered and strong and clear? Why was that? And if you then can say, what was a particular, philosophy or value that was coming out of that particular time, like, that I felt so clear. What was it about that story or that particular point in your life? And how does that inform your leadership philosophy? So what principles were you operating from when you felt at your best as a leader? How would, I love this question, right? It's sort of like the epitaph. If you've ever had people say, this is a self-help, it's fun to do, but you kind of write out, you're at your own funeral and you're reading your own kind of, epitaph or whatever you call that story at the end, where people are saying, oh, and, the thing about Lori was blah, 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 blah. And so this is a similar to that, where if you were to look back, how would you want people to describe your leadership and the type of leader you were? And what would they say about your philosophy and values and principles? So just spending some time thinking about that. And then this question, I love this question. It's like, what is one lesson that you've learned about leadership um, that experience taught you the hard way? So last night I was at an event downtown Chicago, Chicago Innovation. They just do great events, period. And last night it was an award ceremony celebrating women in innovation. So Chicago Women in Innovation. And one of the women, and they were talking, and these were all highly accomplished, decades of career under their belt, with remarkable stories. And one of the women, if she didn't ask the question this way, like what's one lesson you learned the hard way, that that told you about your leadership, whether it was I did not lead the way I wanted, which is often how we decide how we want to lead, right? We make the mistake so we can learn from it. Or you saw someone during a certain situation leading in a certain way, and that's like, nope, not going to do that. Or, boy, I hope I can be just like that person under similar circumstances. So, but the question I'm saying is, what is one lesson that you've learned about leadership that experience taught you the hard way? And so last night at this event, one of the women was talking about a situation. She was the CEO of an organization, and I guess she, her mother and father founded this multi-billion-dollar organization, and she was on the board, and there had been some big discussions about an acquisition that was, just meant for the board. And afterwards, she found out that there might potentially be a leak that could very much cause harm to the organization and to the acquisition and to customers and employees if they were to hear it ahead of time of final decisions being made and things like that. And she said, what I learned in that moment was I'm resourceful. Like this was, and there was way more. That's a crazy story. But one of the things that come out of that is she knew as a leader that she's resourceful. Like, I'm a resourceful leader. When the back is against the wall, I know I can figure things out. So that's what we're talking about. Look at a time that was hard, and what sort of leadership qualities did you bring to bear during that, or wish you had brought to bear? But what did you learn the hard way, whether in the moment or in hindsight? And so as you reflect on all those questions I just said, leaders you've admired and why, values you refuse to compromise even under pressure, when you have been your best as a leader, what principles were you operating from? That the values, like the epitaph story of how you want people to see you as a leader. And then what's one lesson or 10 that you've learned about leadership through that was taught to you the hard way, right? So you start, you've spent some time with all of those, thinking, writing, pondering, setting down, walking away, coming back to it. And in that process, you'll start to notice themes. And you want to start to reflect on those questions, reflect on those themes. And those are really your leadership philosophy, that you're going to build around those themes, particularly like resourceful, like a word like that. And it's funny, even at that event last night, I think the last question was something around, what are the leadership traits you value or something. And they said things like focus and humility, generosity, listening, having a vision, being strategic. Um, uh, I said generosity, right? What was the other one? Bringing people along. So, those are some that they came up with that you could tell were really foundational to how they lead. Other ones might be, uh, so, that some themes you're seeing are about trust or transparency or curiosity, innovation, accountability, learning, service, innovation. I said that, compassion. So these sort of things, maybe it's in different ways, but you're like, that's basically generosity, and there it is again, and there is it showing up again. Just trust that that's part of who you are, and how you want to lead and be seen as a leader. So write that, just capture those themes, pop it into, or even the responses to these questions, and ask AI, what is my leadership philosophy out of this? um, and see what they say, and then make it your own. Don't, use your critical thinking, and beyond your critical thinking, tune into your sort of inner wisdom and be like, how does this resonate with me? What's missing? What do I need to take away? What can I add? Those sorts of things, and then create something that you just really um, know that, no matter what, uh, this is going to be the thing that you come back to help you, right? Help you make decisions, help you connect with other people, help you um, find the resourcefulness that you need. So um, the themes do become the foundation of your leadership philosophy. But here's another thing I just wanted, going back, I had talked about in the beginning, I had talked about how a leadership philosophy becomes the anchor and how it helps you. And one of the ways it can help you is it can help you combat the current kind of command and control, uh, you know, directorial, patriarchal um, way of leading. It can, I believe that things are evolving, that, and I may have said this, I think, but this unstable ground is a good thing. It's, we're tearing down so we can rebuild in a different way. And so having a clear leadership philosophy that isn't based on, um, you know, if we can, it isn't based on command and control. Let's just say it that way. If we can have something that is more consensus building type of leadership going forward, if that's what you value, um, and I hope you do, then this, we're seeing these changes coming. I believe that this is a real opportunity to bring forward a more equitable, consensus, collaborative uh, leadership framework in general, and you building a full, and you claiming that that's the type of leadership that you would want to work under and that you want to be yourself, that we're at this choice point right now. And that's why building a leadership philosophy that feels aligned and in tuned with your true nature, and not that's the way we've always done it, so that must be the right way. Like, question all of that, push back on all of that. I know for myself that there's this like dual conversation, like, well, that seems to be working for them, but it feels horrible to me. And if that is being out of alignment, I'm going to come over here to why it feels horrible and figure out something that feels better, more genuine, more aligned with me. And just because that's the way it's always been done, and even outward success seems to be happening, does that mean that I have to incorporate that as part of my leadership style and philosophy? And you don't either. You get to decide. And so, and here's the other thing I will say, I truly believe this as well, is that those outcomes you will also have. It isn't, oh, they have financial success. I see that's kind of a main thing. They have financial success and they got there doing it this way. And the way they did it feels really off to me, but that must be the only way to get to financial success. Not true, not true, not true. You can be fully aligned, completely the opposite of the way that it's been done before, and still create financial success and other things. So just don't believe that lie. Just don't believe it. Okay, I've gone on another Lori tangent, but don't believe that lie. So, we're noticing, because things are in such chaos, it's because these frameworks are no longer working for us. And we're starting to see that leaders are recognizing that their roles are different now, need to be different now. And for example, if a core philosophy is of you as a leader is service, we've heard a lot about servant leadership. If that's a core philosophy for you, then you're likely going to focus on removing obstacles for your team in the daily, right? You're going to help others succeed by removing obstacles because you believe in leadership as service as part of your philosophy. Or perhaps it's people do their best work when they feel trusted. And so you empower employees to make decisions and even, encourage making mistakes, so things, you know what I mean? We absolutely fail fast, right? That might be a philosophy. And so you're going to give opportunities for people to stretch themselves and grow, even if the result isn't exactly how it was hoped, but they're learning from it. They're being empowered because that's part of your philosophy, that they do their best work when they feel trusted and they believe in themselves more because you trust them. And it's just this perfect circle of empowerment. And another, new philosophy that you could bring in, it would be something like, maybe you have a philosophy that the best ideas can come from anywhere. I just love that. It can come from anywhere. You talk about design thinking. That was really cool when that started to come through. Like if you haven't read, I think it's Creativity Inc., the Pixar story, they really embody this, ideas can come from anywhere and we're not attached to anything. Philosophy, and they keep iterating and keep iterating and keep asking, what else, what could be, how else could they say that? And they just keep moving towards, and so that requires, again, for me, I value the making patient decisions, not rushing to decision. And at the same time, that's really a value of mine because I made fast decisions in the past without all the information, or sometimes it's served me, sometimes it hasn't. So I don't want to tamp down my impulsivity because I really love it, and I think it's served me really, really well. But there's also this part of like just allowing things to unfold a little more. And so if your best ideas can come from anywhere, then your leadership that's part of your leadership philosophy. Then you'll likely seek out diverse perspectives, right? And you'll create a space for collaboration. Or if your philosophy is, that I believe in helping others be at their very best, then you're going to prioritize coaching, professional development, sending team to conferences, encouraging them to take courses and classes, and using budget for those things. If part of your philosophy is that relationships drive results, you will not only spend time, managing and guiding projects, but you'll also spend time, equal amount of time, looking for ways to build relationship and build trust and build connectivity and bring people together and those sorts of things. So all of these philosophies that I'm just talking about reveal something really important, that it isn't no longer about, the shift in leadership is no longer about just the bottom line end result. That what we're seeing today and how things are changing and why we need to rewrite, if not written for the first time, rewriting, relooking at, and reconsidering the leadership philosophy you want to bring forward. Because these philosophies, you know, are starting to reveal that that we don't need to sacrifice ourselves, our integrity, our inner guidance system, our work-life balance, relationships, fun, collaboration. Like none of that needs to be sacrificed in this new new earth, new paradigm that we are creating together, where we're changing work cultures so they work for everyone. And you get the chance to be a part of that and create a philosophy that isn't looking at how things have already been done, but tuning inside and creating that from how you believe, what you believe is possible, or even hope for and aren't quite sure, but there's something in your heart that's like, this could be that way. This could be like this. We could make decisions like this. We could, you know, be of more service. We could be more generous and still be strategic and focused, you know? So with, you know, like when I go back to my client and working with her, I realized that it wasn't about improving her LinkedIn profile, really, right? But it was really about getting into a deeper, having her reconnect with a deeper part of herself. And that's what I'm asking you to do as well, like reconnecting with a deeper part of herself, that true nature that you came into the world with. Um, and that can now be help guide her because we've articulated it as a leadership philosophy. So I just I just think that you know, again, is guiding, it's guiding in hiring decisions, it's guiding in team building, it's guiding in conflict resolution, um it's guiding in uh like decision making. You know, I've been thinking about the patience of a decision, you know, like it can guide all of that. But it's not about second guessing, because this comes from the inside out, not attached to necessarily old expectations or cultural, um, you know, norms. It's connected to you and what feels the best for you, next best step in the career you're in, the next best decision for the team. You know, you do what you can do. And I know we have other people to be accountable to. But trust me, when you lead and create, have a philosophy that's built in your true nature, the rest of the stuff figures itself out. And so, and now that you're clear and you know you are embodying this new philosophy that's going to help change work culture so it works for everybody, you are also letting people know what you stand for, what you believe in, what people can count on. You know, I said, you know, you can be the calm before the storm, in the storm, and after the storm, like what people can count on from you as their leader. um, and it's so valuable, you know, in career reinvention, in your elevating your career, in career transition of any sort, but it's also just so important for you, you know, to how often do we just spend a few moments tuning in and really thinking about um, the type of leader we want to be, whether you're an individual contributor just leading yourself or you're leading a global, you know, team of hundreds of people, doesn't matter. You know, build that foundational leadership philosophy that is not that's okay, because if it's not like, oh, that's how they did it and that's how they got that result, we're going to do it differently and get that result or even better through this new way of leading. I truly believe that. I think we're at such a pivotal time, and I'm calling all of us to reconnect with that inner guidance system and create a philosophy that not only serves you but serves the world. So there we go. There we are. And follow the QR code and get some, get on a call with me. Let's talk about working together. Join Career Alchemy Academy. It's always a really nice place to start, because it's a community. And my philosophy is that uh, we're stronger together, and that community is going to be part of the foundation that we're building after this disruption that we're going through right now. Like, it's going back to, I think about, smaller communities supporting each other and serving each other and building magnificent things. It sounds so much fun to me. It sounds so much fun and calm and joyful. So heck yeah. So that's it. Peace, everyone. I look forward to being here next week. And I think we're at the same day, same time, same channels. I don't think it's until like later in July that I've got a shifted time. And uh, if you have any questions or comments, just let me know. Just let me know. And I love hearing from you. And please join Career Alchemy Academy, be part of the community, and let's build something, a leadership philosophy together that is connected to who you are joyously becoming, and who you, and creating a career that aligns with that as well. Talk to y'all soon.